item of business is the pledge of allegiance led by Vice Mayor Barbara Craig.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business I have, I'll call for a motion to excuse Mr. Adam, Mr. Kinsey. He's not able to be with us tonight. Can someone make that motion to excuse him? Okay, Mr. Culpepper?
Second.
All in favor? Next item is the adoption of the September the 3rd, that's tonight, agenda. And I'll call for a motion to adopt unless somebody's got some changes they want to make. Anybody want to rearrange it or make any changes? If not, entertain a motion to adopt as presented. So moved. Second? Second. Okay. All right, the next item is. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Approval of the consent agenda for September the 3rd. Everybody had a chance to look it over? All right,
I move we approve.
move to approve.
I
Second.
did notice in the July 30th, it had you as the fire department. You weren't there.
No, I was not.
Yeah, so I would-
On July 30th.
Make a motion to amend.
Don't get credit, I think we ought to cut him a little slack.
Yeah.
I'll take that in.
Okay, would you make that, change, Mr. Clerk? Thank you, sir. All right.
I'm not gonna let you get by with it.
You can't get by with anything around here, I'll tell you that. All right. The, yes, I thought we did. Okay, motion. I thought we had both. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. All right, second? All right. Then here's my choice.
I didn't know if you said all in favor.
Pardon?
Just, I didn't know if you called for the vote itself. All in favor.
I thought that I did. All right, we've got several people signed up, Counselor, for the public comment session. If it runs a little past 6:05, will it affect the public hearing in any way?
No, sir, you can
Okay.
take the public session
Can we take it now?
items first, yes.
Okay. All right, I have two people signed up for the public session. Mr. Coates? You're
Yes.
first up, sir. Welcome,
All right.
sir.
Glad to be here. First, I'd like to thank the mayor and the town board for allowing me to speak tonight, and I'll be real brief. Being a lifelong resident of taxpayer of Franklin, I know we have many challenges before us, and y'all really do. However, one that troubles me is animal control or the lack thereof, specifically loose and untethered dogs. On Sunday morning, July the 14th, about 9:30 a.m., I was walking on the sidewalk headed to Ingles to get a Sunday paper, chocolate milk and a honey bun, as I do every Sunday, when I was viciously attacked by a 50-pound pit bull dog at the corner of Wilkie and West Main Street. This dog was relentless and would not let go even after I hit him a bunch of times. Luckily, a lady in a white car came by blowing her horn and stopped, and he turned loose long enough for me to turn around, and he re-bit me, and then his buddy bit me on the right leg, but he didn't break the skin. And then she took me down to the police station. This event started a 7 weeks and 3-day tenure of shots, bandages, emergency room visit, 2 doctor visits, 20 days of antibiotics, and 11 visits to the wound care clinic, which I'm going back to tomorrow. And right now, I've got a vacuum device on my wound, and I don't know how much longer I'm gonna have that on. This has been a real education, to say the least, about dogs. All this could have been avoided if the dog owner and the landowner, usually responsible too in my mind, had been more responsible for their property. Also, in my head, the animal control and health department and the police department had made somewhere like 15 visits out there to no avail. And mine's not even on there. They didn't make the policeman didn't make a report out that morning. He told me animal control had to do it, and animal control was real nice, Jason Brooks. My bite was bad enough. But if this had been a small child, or I'm 74, but if this had been a little old woman, they'd have done a job on it. Or if the kid either could probably kill them. I know animal control is a challenge, but I just wish it'd get a little attention. And that's all for that. But I got another little ditty, and you brought those pictures you took this morning. And this is about the condition of the property. For 40 plus years, I've had to put up with dogs, junk cars, Boomer had everything in the world out there, trash, and it's still there to this day. Plus, I think it's a health hazard too. Just this morning, when you and I were out there, there's 20 plus trash bags around the house, up on the porch, in disarray. And there's 3 old cars out there, old tin metal roofing, all kinds of junk just out in plain view. Not to mention the grass is knee high. Ain't been over maybe once this summer. I wish this property gets the same attention the one on Bonnycrest Drive and the other one on Hillcrest. And thank you for time.
Mr. Coates, thank you, sir, and I will assure you that we're working on that
Okay.
right now. Okay, the
I
next.
appreciate these pictures too, by the way.
Sir?
I appreciate these pictures.
Oh, sure, sure, and if any of the media wants copies of those pictures, I have them up here. Mr. Derrick, from 351 Warrior Street, sir.
You know where I live.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Been a while.
Yes.
I've been doing missionary work. How about that? Board, mayor and all that, and you too, Ray. There's a little talk going around about Back Street. That you don't stripe off the place out there in front of Warrior Street, Warrior anything. I think that's a good idea. If I'm coming up from where Jimbo's place is on that road there and come up to that street, you have to just about pull out into the street if there's a vehicle there. And I highly recommend that y'all stripe that thing off. And when I come up down my moped, I have to get out in the street. Of course, it's really a motorcycle, but that's what I call it. The other thing is, what that fellow was just talking about, you got that problem down on the Greenway. And it's bad. Okay, the other thing, we get to the rat killing now. White Street and Old Cove, when they fill that hole in and pull that culvert, the cement part of it, if you would put a little, like you did down at Jimbo's, about a piece about 10 feet long, coming down Old Cove and make a curve. The reason for that is, the people come across that piece of cement out in my front yard. And I've gone down there and put new grass and, packed it back down, probably another dirt. If you could look into that, I'd be appreciative. So right now, when you gonna do it?
Mr. Moore, are you available tomorrow to go look at that?
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
That fast enough, sir? Would you like to
Well, I'll
go
tell you
tonight?
what, there's a dilemma. I don't know who to vote for, either you or Bob running. Bob, you gonna poke him, I appreciate it. Easy.
Mr. Moore, if you would, sir, if you could run by and take a look at that tomorrow, I know exactly where he's talking about. There was no one else signed up for public comment, so I'll get back to my review. Okay, I'll open the public hearing for the special use permit for Angel Community Hospital, being in a manner that recognizes special due process safeguards. And council is right there, ready to call me down when I mess up, if I do. Please note that council members and the parties of the hearing are allowed to cross-examine witnesses after they have given their testimony. So first off, this matter is the application for a special use permit which has been submitted by HCA Angel Medical Center, Angel Hospital, for the property located at 14 One Center Court. All right, I will now administer an oath to those persons wishing to testify in the hearing. So,
Counselor, three counselors.
Officer Mario.
Need be, Mr. Mayor, I believe we
Uh,
probably will.
Well, okay. Oh, here it is. All right, if everyone that signed up to speak for the public hearing officially, if you'll stand and raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the evidence that you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you. All right, now I need to ask if there are any conflicts of interest among the council members here tonight. If so, I ask that you disclose them at this time. Hearing none, we'll move on. If any council members have any knowledge or prior information concerning the evidence to be produced, it should be disclosed at this time. Hearing none, we'll move on. All right, let me explain the proceedings. Evidence will be received in the following order: executive summary and testimony from staff, council member questions, cross-examination if any. Then we will have testimony from the applicant, council member questions, and cross-examination if any. And then testimony from opponents. Should there be any opponents, it will be the council member in question and cross-examination if any. Mr. Stetson, sir, it's yours right now, sir.
Evening, Mayor and Town Council. Before you tonight, go over the staff comments for the the proposed new Angel Medical Center on One Center Court. So with the special use process, the start process, letters were mailed to every property owner within 400 feet of the property of a neighborhood compatibility meeting. That meeting was, let me get my date here quick. That meeting was held on June the 27th here at Town Hall. Roughly, at that time, any of those members of the community, whether they live within 400 feet or just live in Macon County, could ask questions, ask recommendations, things to be changed to the plans that were the preliminary plans at that moment. After that meeting, there was probably roughly about 10 people from the community that came to that meeting. Had some questions, but they didn't get any detail of any recommendations or anything they requested that HCA provided for the plan. Then the planning board reviewed a full set of plans on July the 15th, which they recommended approval of the plans. You should see in your packet, you'll see the full staff report from my office and these dates as well. Prior to this, we have already looked at the water and sewer, and the water and sewer allocation has been approved by Town Council. In your packet, just a little bit more detail, in your packet you will see a 8.5 by 11 of the property, the proposed property, with the building and the parking and the grading, landscaping, and so on, plus the findings of facts with the 5 questions that the planning board reviewed and recommended, but that you all will have to go through and adopt that finding of fact once you decide to make a decision, or tweak if you want to change the way they answer the questions. I'll just go over quick. The facility is on 12.89 acres. It's currently a vacant piece of property. The facility is currently is proposed to be over 80,000 square feet, 2 stories tall with, I believe, all the same amenities that the current facility has now. My only request or recommendation that I would have is, and you can see when the rep from HCA gets more detail, is they have a lot of sidewalk throughout the property now. My only recommendation would be to add some more sidewalk all the way down to the Franklin House on their property. Can't require them to build sidewalk on somebody else's property. But, that would be, so you just have a more continuous loop of some sidewalk in case of your future development, you won't have to worry about it down the road. Other than that, I think they have done everything that we require by the UDO. Haven't left anything out. So, if you have any questions for me, happy to answer. Or I'll let them get in more detail on after the plan.
Any questions, Mr. Sessions? Thank you, sir. Okay, testimony from the applicant. You gonna lead us on? Okay. Ms.
I am.
Certainly.
So thank you, Mayor and the Town Council, for hearing about our plans for the special use permit. We're really excited to get to this point in time. And so to start off, I'm going to introduce Greg Lowe, who's our president of the North Carolina Division of HCA.
Welcome, sir. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Greg Lowe. I'm with HCA Healthcare. I serve as the division president of the North Carolina division within HCA. I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to tell you a little about HCA from a general perspective, and then we'll get into some of the details about the plan. So we'll just advance the slide. So I wanted to start by sharing with you the mission of our organization, which is, above all else, we are committed to the care and improvement of human life. And one of our founders, Dr. Tommy Frist, mentioned and said, he has a number of quotes, but said, in recognition of this commitment, we strive to provide high-quality, cost-effective health care in the communities we serve. And to talk about some of the, I know this is kind of small for everyone to see, but just a few kind of highlights from HCA Healthcare across the country. We're very proud about our giving back and the communities we serve. So you can see we have over $3 billion that are invested in capital spending across our organization to advance, to grow different services in those communities that we do serve. There's nearly $3 billion worth of charitable care that is offered as well. And we have our charity care policy implemented here in the Western North Carolina region. We have, right in the middle of the slide, we have almost 250,000 employees associated with HCA Healthcare. Physicians, 38,000 active status in our hospitals, and we have 87,000 nurses that we employ throughout our enterprise. We have 28+ million encounters, patient encounters across the United States and the United Kingdom on an annual basis. And we see 8.6 million emergency room visits, so a large provider of healthcare across the country. We've been named numerous times as one of the world's most ethical companies, and one thing that I'm very excited and encouraged about is now access to our Sarah Cannon Cancer Network, which is a world-renowned cancer center giving patients access to hundreds of different clinical trials that did not exist previously, that now our centers will have access to in Western North Carolina. A little more on the overview of our organization. We have 185 hospitals across the United States and the United Kingdom. We've got 123 ASCs, which are ambulatory surgery centers, so a lot of surgeries being done on the outpatient setting. We're very engaged in that, as well as GI centers. We have 136 urgent care centers, and FSERs, or freestanding ERs. Again, some of the need across the country is access to healthcare, so having urgent care centers and freestanding ERs give access that communities typically wouldn't have in certain areas. We have numerous physician clinics again, I mentioned the active medical staff and quite a few employed providers. In Western North Carolina, we employ nearly 1,200 providers, which will be a big addition to that. And then the small bar underneath are a number of organizations that we either own or are the majority owner in that provide healthcare or services both to HCA healthcare hospitals and to numerous, if not thousands, of healthcare or in hospitals across the United States. The way that we are divided up, we're divided into 16 divisions. You can see each one of these points on the map of hospitals that are owned by HCA Healthcare. You can see in North Carolina, we are the 16th division. So we're one of 16 divisions within HCA Healthcare. And you can see kind of where the hospitals exist across the United States. A little more about the North Carolina division. So we are 6 acute care hospitals throughout Western North Carolina in this region. You can see in the middle of the circle where we've shown you where those hospitals sit. What this does is we feel over 3,500 patients on an annual basis. This is a wonderful level of expertise to provide to this region. I'm very proud of our trauma center, as well as our cardiovascular surgery and cardiology program is an incredibly busy program in Western North Carolina. We have 56 physician clinics and 128 different locations where we provide care. On a daily basis, we have 809 patients in our hospitals, in our acute care hospitals, and then we typically have over 100 patients that are in what we call our post-acute hospitals, which are inpatient rehab, long-term acute care hospital, and in hospice setting. We employ almost 3,300, about 3,300 nurses in the region to care for our patients. We have the only level 4 neonatal intensive care unit, and we typically have around 40 to 50 patients in that intensive care unit on a daily basis. As I mentioned, we have well over 1,000 employed providers and quite a few licensed beds. So a large system that works together to provide care in this Western North Carolina region. At this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ryan Rowe and Karen Gorby again. Ryan works with us in our design department in HCA Healthcare, and Karen is the CEO. We're going to walk through some of the details with the new proposed hospital.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for having us here. Pretty excited to get this project going. They don't actually get me involved until we're ready to pull the trigger and get moving with design and construction. So it's a really exciting time for me. Love to design and build things. Really, over the next kind of, I'll call it the middle portion of our agenda here, we're going to go over a little bit of an update on where we're at with the existing facility. Karen will talk about that a little bit. We'll get into a brief programmatic overview, just kind of what you can expect to see at Angel Medical Center, the new Angel Medical Center. And then I'll finish with timelines, and then I'll turn it over to the architect and the engineers for the project, really get into the meat of the special use permit, if that's acceptable.
So I know that we've talked a lot with the town council and the mayor regarding the new hospital and why do we need a new hospital? And basically, we have some issues with the current facility, including part of the building does not meet the seismic requirements, and that part of the building actually is currently closed. We have infrastructure constraints, including our fire protection system. The renovation that it would take to change the size of our patient rooms and reorganize the current Angel Medical Center would be extensive and difficult to provide care during that renovation, and would actually cost more than building a new hospital. And I think for any of you who've had family members, the size of the inpatient rooms are 60% of what they should be, and it's really difficult for us to provide family-centered patient care. Some of the key takeaways of the new facility is, having a new building with new technology, new support to care for our patients and the family. We looked at our population, we looked at the needs of the population, and really designed this facility for us. for those of us who live here and receive care here. And it's also, looking at, the question has been, what about the current facility? And we are continuing to look at options for that, and really haven't come to any decision.
Yeah, just to add to that, the world that I live in with being a design manager is usually really messy, complicated. Hospital renovation is a really big dissatisfier, and it's really expensive. So it's kind of a lose-lose. Sometimes we have to do it because we've got, big established facilities and you can't move away from them. So you kind of have to make whatever compromises you can to bring the service line up and update them. But I think the replacement, HCA corporate evaluated a lot of different options on what's the best path forward, and we feel like we've found the right path that would probably be best for both parties. But Angel Medical Center, so as Justin mentioned earlier, we're about 85,000 square feet right now, and I'll get into the plans here in a second. 25 licensed beds, 5 observation beds, and again, the key takeaway here is that this program is right sized for the primary service area here, 82% of which is from Macon County itself. It's a pretty big number. We've really taken some of the programming that was figured out ahead of, I guess, the transition with HCA. We fine-tuned it, and we think we have the right mix to deliver you, really good level of care. And I think that's kind of covered about the rest. But if we look at the core program, we're going to have 3 operating rooms, an endoscopic suite, and we'll have 17 emergency department positions, a couple trauma rooms for some of the higher acuity cases. We have an approach of dealing with some of the behavioral health patients as well that we'll kind of integrate some of the best practices on, and then pretty diverse array of imaging, MRIs, CTs, everything else that you could possibly need. Mostly new equipment and big upgrades to departmental and patient and staff flows and efficiencies. So here's kind of a sneak peek of one of the conceptual plans. We're still developing, still fine-tuning this, but we really feel like this is probably where we're going to start here. And so this is really 2 floors, right? 85,000 square feet. This would be the ground level. One of the niceties of starting from scratch is you have a blank canvas. So you're not trying to make do with whatever condition the building has. So we can really zero in on the things that matter: patient flow, staff flow, interdepartmental adjacencies, to really make it a really efficient hospital. Right now, we're looking at a single point of entry, with the exception of the emergency department. But for all other hospital services, you're coming through the same door, you're greeted by the same person, very intuitive. From there, the staff will take care of you and point you in the right direction, but there's not multiple entrances. You don't have to walk down some dark, cavernous corridor through a hospital trying to find your service. It's all taken care of up front. But right off of that, you've got surgery wait, and then you've also got some pre and post-operative care, as well as our operating rooms and a sterile processing suite, process the instruments. If you have an emergency, you're not familiar with our facility, but you know where the hospital is, you're in a rush, you're panicked, whatever the condition might be, I want to make sure it's the first thing that you see when you come into the property, and make sure it's intuitive. So the emergency department does have its own entrance. They'll have an ambulance drop off on the side, and it'll be the main wait area, and then just administration. And this is more all of the outpatient care is located, and the administration is located on the first floor. And then you have the bed tower on level 2. So again, right about 30 beds itself, 25 or 20 med surge beds, which are general hospital beds. And we also have 5 higher acuity beds, intensive care. So we can handle all of that here with the new layout. It's really efficient. We can flex the unit any which way we want, overflow depending on the need. And then last, there's a pharmacy that we'll have here. So we'll have full compounding capability and enough service to the facility. In terms of anticipated timelines, so we are here today, Q3 2019, special use permit. We're also in the process of doing a cost overrun with the state, modify our certificate of need. We anticipate having approval of that sometime in it's Q1 2020, hopefully February-ish, at which point we probably begin the full-on design and engineering of the building. That's about a 6.5, 7 month process. And we would go through 4 to 6 month code review process with the local authorities and also the state and the state health board. And then we've got about 18 months to finish the project and actually construct it. About a month of operationalizing the building, getting the equipment up and running, and then turning it over and actually moving patients over. So right now, best of our knowledge, we believe will be open Q3 2022. So that really concludes. Randall Forkham, who's the architect with Earl Swenson and Associates, and Jack Parker, who's the civil